This is an upload to record how I've interacted with the 7th teaching standard, which is managing behaviour effectively to ensure a good and safe learning environment for students. Behaviour management is an aspect of teaching I've never particularly been intimidated by, simply because I've worked with children for the past 4 years. I've always considered my ability to interact with children and manage behaviour to be a strength of mine, owing to my confidence and personality traits. Following my first observation by my mentor, he stated that my behaviour management techniques exceeded expectations of a PGCE student, which I was quite proud of because I think it showed and validated some of the success within that lesson. But that's not to say that I've not learnt more techniques in my time at Gunnersbury Catholic School. For example, within my year 7 class, I observed a teacher using a system whereby she would write students' names on the board, and underneath their names would be underneath a certain statement. For example, red slip, plan it in, doing well, and green slip, which immediately influenced me to go and look at this, which was the school's behaviour policy. I immediately noticed that it stated expectations of the pupils, along with expectations of techniques to manage behaviour from the staff. For instance, it says every pupil has the right to learn and every teacher has the right to teach without interruption. So that clearly states that interrupting a teacher within the classroom is unacceptable, simply because it's a very rude aspect. This is something that I've learned at the school, that they deem it as a very rude thing to do, and you should always have respect for your peers and the teachers. I think something that resonated with me was the fact that it stated that optimum teaching and learning can take place when behaviour is positive and when inappropriate behaviour is effectively managed as part of a relevant and enjoyable learning process. So that refers to this part here. And I thought it clearly refers to the aim of creating a positive learning environment, because that's such an important aspect of being within a classroom. Upon researching the school's behaviour policy and asking my co-workers what the policy was, I found that there were 2 uniform indicators of behaviour within the school. There's a red slip and a green slip. The red slip presented here entailed a detention and was to be given directly to the student's head of year, along with the correct information. For example, the pupil's name, the date, what they had done should be documented, and who is signing it, so namely myself. Thus far, I've only had to give detentions out based on students who have not brought in their books or not done their homework, since instances of radical misbehaviour at Gunnersbury seem relatively minimal. However, if I scroll down, there is the alternate behaviour management policy known as the green slip. The green slip is an indicator of students exhibiting excellent behaviour. Any student that has presented an outstanding piece of work or contributed excellently on a consistent basis within a lesson or subject could be presented with a green slip, which acts as a great source of motivation for the younger students. That's what I've noticed in especially my year 7 classes and the year 8 classes that I have observed. Then came the opportunity to conduct my own lesson, and with it the onerous task of managing behaviour. Obviously, managing behaviour within a camp environment, which is what I've been used to for the past couple of years in Camp America, is drastically different to one in the classroom. So I was anticipating that quite nervously. In our sessions at university, we've been repeatedly told that there are varying techniques to use in order to manage behaviour, and they all have different effects on different classes and especially different individuals. One piece of advice I valued above the rest is Ed Boyles, my tutor, who stated that above all, when managing behaviour, you've got to be fair. A teacher has to be fair, since this is what students will respond to and base their respect for you on. So I've had some photos taken of me within a lesson, which kind of added to my nerves, I guess. And as you can see here, I've decided to put that teacher's system into action within the year 7 class. So in the background here, you can briefly see there are the different faces entailing different different actions that I would take depending on a student's behaviour in the lesson. there is plan it in, red slip, doing well, and green slip. And within this lesson, 2 students did well but didn't do enough or continue doing enough to warrant a green slip being handed out. I've also included another photo which is from a different lesson where I've changed the names of the students for security reasons, but it reflected what happened in the lesson. So within the lesson I decided to put the teacher's system into action. Plan it in, it indicates a student who is behaving in a way that is not conducive to the learning atmosphere, while red slip means a detention alongside giving a red slip to the student's head of year. Doing well lets students know that they are progressing well within the lesson, and if they keep it up they will receive a green slip, which, like I said earlier, acts as a very good source of motivation. So within the lesson, which was about revision techniques for their upcoming assessments, I decided to take particular notice of any students that exhibited behaviour deserving of these titles. And the impact of this lesson that it had on the lesson was clear from the outset. Fortunately, I didn't have to give out any detentions, and I attribute this to the success of the stage stating that their planner should be in, where Chris and Joseph's names are placed. So students' names go underneath this section, and I would take their planners in and put them on their desk. I only had to do this twice, and simply because of these 2 individuals who were being far too loud and distracting others during the activity, which I had given prior warning to, referring to my point about needing to be fair. This prior warning had contained their behaviour for about 10 minutes until the next activity where they resumed, until I took their planners in, let them know why I had taken them. And after doing this, after this incident, their behaviour had ceased. On the positive scale of behaviour management, the doing well and green slip acted as excellent motivation for student participation and engagement. Upon writing one name under the doing well alongside Fred's name, students would instantly attempt to interact more and give a lot more key words in their answer. And one student actually progressed to the green slip, Leo, simply because he was interacting very well. He helped some of his peers understand a topic that we had previously studied and was using a lot of keywords in his answer. And he had a really positive outlook on the lesson. And so I thought that he very much deserved a green slip. Overall, the system contributed to create a positive learning atmosphere and made the lesson very enjoyable and quite easy to teach compared to some lessons that I have seen. The wider impact this has had on my teaching practice was to reinforce the importance of being a fair teacher, so giving them the warning before performing a punitive action definitely encourages a positive response, and it's received as fair and justified on your part. So for instance, where Chris and Joseph started to misbehave, once I explained why what they were doing was wrong and gave them a resultant action for that, their behaviour ceased, which was good to see. Furthermore, it's encouraged me to establish expectations, so referring to the first teaching standards throughout the class, and demand them from the students, so demand expectations, which encourages reflection to the first teaching standard. I think that relatively sums up my interaction with the teaching standard, with the 7th teaching standard, and hope to do a lot more research into interacting with the other 7 that are remaining after.